everybody. So we are going to recap the Transcendentals. And one of the things I'm a little worried about, am I too loud? Yeah. Oh wait, is that normally or just right now? Is that normally I'm too loud. Okay. Nothing we can do about that. Not right now anyways. We can talk about that later. But one of the things I'm concerned with is that you all still feel like the Transcendentals are eluding you, that their transcendental quality is something that you haven't really grasped and in a way been able to bring it into your life. And you know what? It's okay to have occasions where you sit for lessons that you don't understand. Because if you don't ever find yourself in a position where you need to strain and think and engage your mind, you're never going to get smarter and you're never going to grow in your education. A friend of mine once gave me some really great advice. He said, "Father, the biggest tragedy in the world is to find yourself in a room where you're the smartest person there. Because you're never going to learn anything from anyone." And so we have to constantly immerse ourselves into situations that are a little bit difficult for us, that do make us think a little bit differently, and that's good. And so there are going to be lineups in Ablaze that are going to push you. What I hope is that it pushes you up to God rather than push you out the door. Part of the reason why I might have been a little bit loud is because we don't have as many people in here as we normally do to absorb the sound. So I want to encourage you to talk to your friends that are missing at your table and just make sure that they're not leaving because they're discouraged, because they don't quite understand everything they think they should about the topic that was talked about. It might be years later when you encounter something and a thing clicks in your mind and says, "Oh yeah, I remember talking about that." And now it's driven home. It would have been worth it for you to be here. So what we're going to do is we're going to recap the Transcendentals. The term transcendental has in its root the word transcendent, or to go above, which is part of why it's difficult for us to appropriate it on the ground, because they're not meant to be on the ground. They're meant to be saturating the things that are on the ground from above, like rain on the ground, on the earth and the soil. So the Transcendentals are something, though, that we can all perceive and that we can all appreciate. We also learn that God does not share in the Transcendentals as if they transcend Him. But rather, God is the source and the origin of the Transcendentals. That God is not good, He is goodness. God is not truthful, He is truth. And God is not beautiful, He is the essence of beauty. Now this is important because our appropriation of the Transcendentals, our ability to perceive them, and to look at them, and to see them, and to use them, and to appreciate them, is in a sense a relationality with their source. When we appreciate beauty, when we seek after truth, when we engage and practice goodness, we are relating with God, their source. And as we practice these and engage in them more faithfully, we more faithfully engage God. Now, the difficulty is this. I've said that the Transcendentals are universal, and we all can perceive them. We can all acknowledge that they're there. I don't know anybody who acknowledges or denies that there is truth. Now, there are people who are terribly confused and say that there's no truth, but what they're positing is, in fact, by their estimation, a truth, right? That there is no truth. This is for them a truth. There are people who say that beauty is entirely in the eye of the beholder, but we all have eyes. And so the idea, the understanding is that there is a beauty for us to behold, though it might be diffused over the perception of the individual. And there's nobody, the most basic axiom of all ethics is that humanity seeks the good. We seek it sometimes wrongly, and we misunderstand sometimes what the good is, but we all seek it. So in this way, these are universal. But what happens is that we do break down in our ability to perceive correctly and to acknowledge in an adequate way, and then to engage these three characteristics of the Transcendentals in a way that they're meant to be engaged. Remember, God is one. Right? God is one, which simply means, most easily stated, God is. And if what comes from God's isness, what comes from God's essence, his being, are these separations of transcendentals, like light through a prism, separating a singular wave into a multitude of colors, truth, goodness, and beauty, we can find ourselves in our own brokenness. We can find ourselves in our own temptation. We can find ourselves in our own selfishness, taking these things and trying to bend them according to our own purpose, our own design. We can also find that we have not been formed well enough. We have not been educated properly in order to perceive the reality of something. Let's say you were educated in the 1300s, not in the intellectual arena, but just in your farm home. Your parents are teaching you what they know about the world. The world would be flat, wouldn't it? The sun would revolve around the world, wouldn't it? There is a reality to the importance of needing true and good formation in order to perceive the world as it truly is. This is no different about God. This is no different about the Transcendentals. We need a good formation in our conscience. I think I'm one slide ahead, one slide behind here. Yeah. We need good formation in our conscience to be able to identify that is good. And there is a right way to achieve that good. This is true, and this is false. This is beautiful, and why? And this is ugly, and why? A true formation steeped in prayer and meditation, in the truths of God, and then an appropriation of the world around us, gives us this ability. It is absolutely essential. What's the purpose of talking about the Transcendentals, if you're still asking yourself that? It's that everything we do, every movement we make, every thought we have, every moral action we take is being informed by how we perceive these three things: truth, goodness, and beauty. Why am I going after that thing? Because it looks good. Why am I gazing upon this thing? Because it looks beautiful. Why am I thinking about this thing? Because it sounds true. The difficulty in appropriating the importance of the Transcendentals might be because they are so fundamental. Because everything from its most basic motion of the human person is informed and directed by these Transcendentals. But not just by these Transcendentals, but how we have been able to receive them and appropriate them. If our glass is broken, if our prism is broken, we will see it incorrectly. If our glass is clean and polished and flat, the light will come through beautifully. As it has left its source, it will pass through the window of our conscience and be perceived as it was meant to be perceived. But if that glass is cracked, if that glass is curved, if that glass is angled in some way, we will perceive it, but we will perceive it not in its entirety, or we will misunderstand the light that is coming through. This devastation that happens, this trauma that happens from the devil, from the world, and from our brokenness of flesh is what we have to overcome, and why we're talking about the Transcendentals. I want to just nail these things down with a couple of examples. Truth. Truth is not always perceived by the senses, but truth sometimes comes to us from an authority, namely God. The world sees some things as false that are, in fact, absolutely true. On our left. Sometimes the world will propose something to be true that is absolutely empty and vapid, vacant and erroneous. On our right. Goodness. Goodness. Oftentimes we misjudge what is good because we are judging by the wrong tool. Sometimes we judge goodness by sentiment. It feels right. It feels good. It looks good. Isn't that cute? But goodness has a deep, essential substance. That goodness makes happen what is intended to happen by the thing that is happening. Let me break that down. Marriage. Marriage is for family. If marriage does not allow, or if a proposal of marriage does not allow for family, that is a union between a husband and a wife for the procreation of children, you need children for family, it is not what it proposes to do, it is not what it proposes to be, and therefore is not good, because goodness achieves the end which it proposes. Marriage is for family. The left. A husband and wife who love one another and have produced the fruit of a beautiful child. And on the right, we'll leave that unspoken. Beauty. We laugh. We do. And you know what? That's okay. The reason I put this up here, I hope everybody knows Mother Angelica. And I hope everybody loves Mother Angelica. If you don't, you're going to lose a great intercessor in heaven one day. The reason I put this up here, Mother Angelica and the supermodel, is because of a conversion that happened for a man who struggles with same-sex attraction and was in the modeling business for a long time in the 70s and the 80s. He now speaks for Courage, a tremendous support group. It's like the AA for those who are struggling to live a chaste life with homosexual attractions. An amazing group. Courage. He was watching television one day and saw this pirate nun show up on television, and he, like us, laughed. But something struck him deep in his heart. Something pierced his heart by this apparent ugliness that never struck him in his apparent beauty and the beauty that surrounded him in his bohemian and sinful lifestyle. One is deep. One is profound. One manifests what is true and good. The other appears to be beautiful, but possesses neither truth nor goodness. I'm not talking about the human soul on the right who is being tortured and abused, but I'm talking about the reality of what's being proposed. We need to form our consciences, allow the church to repair our windows, so that when truth, goodness, and beauty are presented to us by the world, we can see it for what it is, and we can defend ourselves against the way the devil and the world and our own brokenness seeks to manipulate it and to change it to our own detriment. Those who place their hope in the right, they quickly know their mistake. But those who can see deep enough into the truth and the goodness, which is the definition of beauty, on the left will find food and comfort and counsel that will feed them for their whole life. This is true about Holy Mother Church. Sometimes she looks ugly. Ugly because of our own brokenness, but ugly nevertheless. But yet if we see deep enough, if we scratch past that surface of dust and a little confusion, we will see truth, goodness, and beauty manifest in her, because she is the very body of Christ Jesus, who is the truth, the goodness, and the beauty of God manifest in the flesh. Understand these three things. Apply your minds to understanding them. Get your souls fixed so that you can perceive them correctly and let them inform your life. Because there's an adventure and a beauty out there that's just waiting to be seen and lived. But if we keep living with eyes to the world, we'll never see it. God bless you guys. I hope that helped.